I got good news for everyone. Today, tonight, whenever you may be watching, college football is wide open. Used to be that we were on a quest for parity in this sport. I say that mockingly because we never participated in this nonsense per se, but there was a fair amount of talk out there that parity was dead. If you're not already in the exclusive Tier 1 club, you're never going to get there. Do you remember this? Not too long ago. It would have been the mid to latter portion of the 20-teens. If you're not Alabama, you're not Clemson, you're not Ohio State, if you're not one of the select few that have just detached themselves and they're just pulling away from the rest of the sport, if you're not in that club, you're never going to be in that club. The quest for parity, the quest that never was, never should have been, never needed to be. We'll never see a G5 team in the playoff. We'll never see a Cinderella team make the playoff. It's just the same four teams every year. None of that was ever true, by the way. Now, Cincy has already disproven that. TCU just played for a national championship. They've disproven that. We are now like 9 years into the playoff. There's only been 1 year where we had no new participants in the playoff field. There have been zero, count them, doesn't take long, 0 years where the same four teams have made the playoff twice. It's never happened. Yet they were telling you it was happening every day. So why am I saying these things to you? Well, because for a while, even I had to admit there wasn't a whole lot of oxygen in the Tier 1 room. The Tier 1 room just means the room where the favorites hang out. Your Bamas, your Clemsons, etc. Back in the 20-teens, that's where they were hanging out. They played 4 years in a row at one point. So yeah, there wasn't a whole lot of oxygen there. It did not feel when we were entering those seasons like many teams out there had a shot to win a championship. And it may still feel that way to you, even entering these seasons the past couple of years, but the thing about it is these seasons have not remotely played out the way most people thought. If you could go find me someone who accurately predicted the playoff field the last 2 years, either of them, I don't care, pick one. They got a chalice of supremacy coming their way. I don't know any TCU fans that predicted themselves to go to the playoff, much less getting the other three spots right. So nobody has a stranglehold on any conference, is what I'm trying to tell you. Think this through with me for just a second. There are favorites preseason, obviously. There are hierarchies in these conferences, obviously. But you want parity? Answer me this question. Who's got a stranglehold on a conference right now? The only two repeat conference champs we just had were Utah and Michigan. Not even Georgia was a repeat conference champ. They've got back-to-back national titles and don't even have back-to-back SEC titles. Michigan and Utah are the only consecutive conference champs in America right now at the Power 5 level. Neither one of them would be considered an elite recruiter. Neither one of them will be the odds-on favorite going into this following season in their own conferences. And neither one of them have won a playoff game. There is no one outside of the University of Georgia playing extended dominant football right now. I mean the kind that makes you completely lose hope, the way that it looked in Tuscaloosa and Clemson for a little while. And so then I get to look ahead a little bit because we did just have the national championship game the other night. I do get to look ahead to 2023 as people start talking about parity inevitably. And I ask anyone who claims there is not parity, give me your slam dunk college football playoff team this upcoming year. The kind of team that you'd be willing to bet an uncomfortable amount of money on making the field. Outside of Georgia, which is partially due to schedule, I don't see one. I don't say that disrespectfully to Georgia. Georgia's going to have a really good team this upcoming year. I'm just saying, if you look at the schedule for Georgia, it's an abomination. Not really their fault. The conference took away a game against Oklahoma. Yeah, let me say that again. Georgia had Oklahoma on the schedule. Georgia does not have Oklahoma on the schedule now. They got UT Martin, Ball State, UAB, Georgia Tech. That's their fourth out-of-conference game. Florida's neutral site, as it is every year. They go to Tennessee. They got Ole Miss and at Tennessee. That's a 2-game stretch in November. So if you want to look at Georgia and say, I don't even care whether they're a shell of themselves from this year to next year, I still think they're going to make the playoff based on that schedule, okay, I'll even grant you that. What about the other three spots? You got any more slam dunks for me? Like, I don't think Georgia's a slam dunk. I would bet on them. But I don't think they're a slam dunk. But even if they are, Is Bama a slam dunk? Do you even know who the coordinators are going to be? Do you know who the quarterback's going to be? No, you do not. Ohio State, ditto. Slam dunk. Are they even going to beat Michigan? Out in the Pac-12, is Utah going to run it back? If they do, they're going to have to defy odds. And even this past season, they lost several games along the way. USC has not shown the slightest inclination to make me believe they can be consistent enough defensively to be feared yet. Oregon's still putting it together. Washington, year 1 to year 2, love what they have. But where am I supposed to have fear struck in my heart in these conferences? Same thing can be said for the Big 12. Texas and OU have not gotten their act together to the point where it sucks any of the oxygen out of the conference room there. In the ACC, Clemson made some moves today. I'm going to talk about that later in the show. But Clemson's been wobbly. There's a lot of hope reinserted into the picture there, just like there may be at Alabama. My point is, it doesn't feel so helpless anymore, does it? And while you just watch TCU do what they did this past season, while you watch Cincinnati and Michigan do what they did last season, and Michigan did it twice, I would suggest to you we're still in a window. I don't know how long this window is going to last, but we're still smack dab in the middle of a window that is ripe for playoff surprises. And this time last year, we did a fun little exercise earlier today where, we were kind of looking at who may be in the playoff that comes out of nowhere. Well, this upcoming season, you could just have random out of nowhere teams. You could have like Washington make the playoff. You could have Texas A&M, grant you, would be a monumental turnaround in one season, but they've got the raw talent there. That's a prerequisite. You're going to have players. Now, they may be a 6-win team again for all I know, but I'm saying we're in an environment that is very ripe for this to happen. Florida State, it wouldn't come out of nowhere for people who have been paying attention, but I think to the national casual public, Florida State would appear to come out of nowhere. The 2023 ACC title odds, by the way, I did not know this until just now when it popped on the screen. I had not checked this. CFP odds for 2023. Okay, well, I'm just going to assume that the ACC odds look kind of similar to this. Clemson and Florida State have the same playoff odds. Stats and Info has broken news to me. I did not know this. Plus 1,800. Those are college football playoff title odds from Caesars right now when it comes to ACC teams. And for the record, no one else is close. There's a lot of ground to be gained right now pretty rapidly, whereas once upon a time, not too long ago, it looked like it was a lost cause. It was never a lost cause because the sport never stands still and just lets a couple of programs pull off in the distance. Everyone's fighting to beat them. You got the crosshairs on your forehead, and everyone is meeting in the spring and summer, and everyone's scheming, and everyone's recruiting, and everyone's making staff changes, and they're all coming after you, and there's some pretty good minds out there working on such things. It's like watching the figure skater, and they twirl. Trust me, I don't know all the terminology here, but it's really hard to spin as fast as they do for as long as they do, because just the slightest little imperfection in the ice, just the slightest little lack of an elbow tuck, it spells disaster. And when you're operating at an extremely high level in sports, it's not feet, it's not yards, it's just micro inches that could spell the difference between you running off a string like Georgia's in the middle of right now and doing what LSU did in 1 year and then completely crumbling. It's that easy. And therefore, on the other side, it's that hard.
Thanks for watching, guys. Don't leave yet. Don't leave yet. Make sure you like the video and please subscribe to the channel. Not just for me, that's how we keep this entire thing free.